I'm good. How are you?
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for joining in.
My pleasure. Always.
Thank you. We are so grateful to you.
Uh, I love doing this. This is fantastic.
Yes, yes. Okay. Karen, before everyone joins, I would like to seek your permission to record this session first. And
Yep.
the second thing is, what is the structure? Like, if I talk about the structure for this session is, I will welcome everyone and introduce you first, and then you will take over the workshop.
Yep. That sounds good.
Would that work for you?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah,
That's easy. I'm happy to
great.
fit in, however. Just whatever you want to do. We're good.
That's so kind of you.
It's my pleasure.
Great.
I love.
I really like your hairstyle. Like they're really great colors. If you could tell me the colors, I could experiment.
Everyone says I'm grey, but I'm gonna tell people you said that.
Yeah, I love experimenting with colors. Like if you see my hair, I have four different like shades on my hair.
Oh, mine's all natural.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yep.
That's so wonderful. I wish I could have also.
No, you're beautiful just as you are.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Ah, wow. Whereabouts are you in India at the moment?
Yeah, I'm in New Delhi,
Yeah,
India,
yeah.
and it's
Okay.
worse here.
It's cold here too. It's very cold.
No, it's not cold here. It's a humid temperature nowadays, but due to COVID, the conditions are really worse. We are in lockdown from last 2 months.
Oh, yeah.
We cannot move out of our houses, and yeah, so all these
Oh,
things.
yeah. Yep. We're doing a bit better here, thankfully.
Mhm.
Thankfully. Yep. Okay. Oh well. Do you want to introduce it, Kamal?
Yeah, I think I'll invite everyone and introduce you, and then you will take over.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Hi everyone, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Depends on where you are based. A very warm welcome to day one of the third International Conference and Pop Festival for Youth Led Climate Action 2021. We are very delighted to have you all join us for the one of the biggest youth led events for climate action. My name is Komal Mittal and I'm from India. I'm a pop youth mentor at the Pop Movement. The Pop family is very excited to welcome you all to this session, to this workshop Get Off the Bench. We are very happy to have you all join us for this very meaningful conversation. Before we start, we would like to mention a series of indications. Kindly keep your microphone switched off to avoid any background noise. Please feel free to use the Zoom chat to send in your questions. Our facilitators will help us coordinate to respond to your queries. We would also like to share our social media handles to keep you informed about our future activities. I will drop that in the chat. We would also like to invite you to use our hashtags while sharing festival content on networks. And if you are posting anything from your account, please use the hashtags mentioned in the chat. You can also register to be a part of POP. We'll share the link in the chat. Also, you can sign up for our special workshops organized by POP partners that will take place during the POP festival, which will be available in the chat. We look forward to seeing you all and engaging with each one of you through the next 6 days of the festival. The pop movement's invaluable partner, Karen Vaughan, will conduct a workshop with youth on planning, executing, and scaling climate action projects. The participants will be guided through a process that helps them identify and understand their personal driving force and also what might be stopping them from taking action. Karen is a creator of Get Off the Bench, an international speaker, author, facilitator, and podcast host with energy that is second to none and an insatiable appetite to inspire you to believe in possibility well beyond your current reality. You leave this workshop motivated and ready to unleash your idea into the world. Karen is the author of award-winning Mag- Magnificent Kids and Get Off the Bench, is the founder of the global not-for-profit One Planet Classrooms, empowering women and girls in Africa, as well as the co-founder of Girls with Hammers, which hosts events to empower and connect women. She is also the host of the Get Off the Bench podcast. We welcome you all. Over to you, Karen.
Thank you very much. That was, thank you very much for that. Well, welcome everybody. I would love you to turn your cameras on. If you don't mind, you don't have to. It would be wonderful to see your faces. And today what I want to do is, start talking about what idea you might have to help the climate change situation. Now, Kamal has just shared the PDF in the chat box. So if you could grab that, that would be fantastic, and it'll just help you to be able to follow along with what I'm doing. Also, you'll need a piece of paper and a pen, or a few pieces of paper actually. Some people can take 10 pages of notes. So if you haven't got a pen and paper, please go get one now, because you will really want to write down a stack of things as we go through this. Now, last time I did this, there was a lot of people from Mexico on it. I spoke a little too fast and some people had a bit of trouble understanding me. I'm going to try and keep it as slow as I can. So please put something in the chat or let me know if I'm going too fast or if you need something else clarified. So while you're gathering your pen and paper and you're downloading that document that Kamal just shared in the chat, I'm going to ask you to think about, what is your idea? So do you have an idea to help with climate change, or any kind of idea to help with sustainability or the environment? I know this pop festival is focused on climate change, but we just want to get the process going of everybody starting to think about how we can make the environment better, how we can make the planet safer and cleaner. And so any idea along in that vein is fantastic. So if you have an idea about what you'd like to start a project, please write that idea down. So even if you just write on your piece of paper, idea, and then write a snapshot, a very quick snapshot of your idea. And I'll give you some examples. I want to clean the waterways in my local bay or in my local river. I want to raise awareness about plastic pollution or some other issue, well, just climate change. Or maybe I want to start a podcast to share environmental tips or tips on how we can improve the climate change situation. So just a quick idea like that. And now I can't, if you don't turn your cameras on, that's okay, but I can't see your faces. So I'm not going to know if I'm going too fast or too slow, because I won't be able to see you. So I'm going to guess, but I would love to see your faces. I would love that, but it's okay. Yeah, thanks, Ved. That's fantastic. Nice to see you. Lovely to see you. Oh, hello, how are you going? I'm going to, Ayushman, is that how you say it? Yeah, good. One thing I don't want to do is offend you by getting your names wrong, but I'm still going to have a guess, and if I'm wrong, you forgive me. There's a few more cameras. This is fantastic. Okay, so can you please put in the chat very quickly, what is your idea? So let's just quickly just do a waterfall of ideas in the chat so I can see what sort of ideas we're talking about. And one thing I do want to tell you up front, it's a bit of a disclaimer. I am not a climate change expert. That's not my job. My job is to help you to become climate change advocates and experts and to help you to make a difference. So my job is to get that idea out of you onto paper and into action. So I haven't seen any ideas come up in the chat yet. So here we go. Now we're getting some. Okay, stimuli-based plastic alert system, fantastic. Extraction of microplastics from the oceans. Okay, great, great. These are the sort of things that are fantastic ideas. And some people say that environmental care, fantastic. Some people say that they can't change the world, they can't save the world. I'm only one person. What's the point of me doing all this because I'm only one person? But if every single person in the world did their little bit, it would all add up and we would have a fantastic jigsaw puzzle of all the pieces and we would have a better world. So never ever think that you as one person can't make a difference. So there's a few people just joined us now. If you've just joined us, there is a PDF in the chat that you could download, and it's got where it's like a worksheet that we're running through. And the first thing I've asked you to do is write down your idea for climate change improvement, climate change awareness, climate change reduction, whatever you want to do regarding climate change or the environment. Now I'm going to move on to the second one. I really hope that everybody's keeping up and we're going to start from now. So, right, we've got your idea. And the next thing is I see that people keep joining and I'm a bit concerned they're going to miss the first part. But, you know, I don't want to get running until everybody's on board. But I really need you to write down your idea for climate change. And then we're going to go. Okay, the next thing is I want you to think about your big vision. So you've got this idea and it's just one piece of the pie, but now we're going to expand this idea to our big vision. How does this look when it's fully unfolded and it's up and running and everybody's enjoying it and you're promoting it and the world is taken on your idea? So let me give you an example. If you said, I want to clean the waterways from my local bay or local river, your big vision would be, we've got a flourishing bay or a flourishing river that's bringing back a vast variety of marine life. You know, imagine that. Imagine you've got this bay that's really polluted and you think, I'm going to clean that up. And you start to get all the pollution out of it. And what you find is that after a while, your big vision is that we have got flourishing marine life. That's a fantastic vision for that. Ariane said we should start with cleaning the local rivers, lakes and waterways and reservoirs first. Yep, I think that's absolutely true. Because all that rubbish is going into the oceans and we need to, and plus there's a lot of biodiversity living in the rivers and waterways that really needs to flourish. So, and I agree with you, Louis. I'm not sure if it's Louis or Lewis, but I agree with you that water pollution, we must avoid throwing garbage into rivers. And in some countries, that is a massive problem. And I read about Bali the other day that now that tourists are not going there, they're starting to clean up their waterways and they're starting to create seaweed farms again that they weren't doing because of all the tourists. So we can look at COVID in one of two ways. We can say that it has, you know, been terrible and it's destroyed the planet and it's destroyed everything. Or we can say, you know, COVID was a wonderful opportunity for everybody to just stop and everybody to stop treating the planet like a giant garbage can, you know, and to actually start thinking about how we can have a better world. So I think we need to look at the second way, and I think we need to just look at it as an opportunity to rethink, you know, the way we do things. And if you're talking about you know, let's focus for a minute on all the rubbish and the plastics and everything that's going into our waterways, and then it's going into our ocean, you know, start to think about, well, what could I do about that? You know, and a lot of us become, I guess, overwhelmed. the problem is too big and I can't save it. I can't fix it myself. But you know what? We can do something about it. We can raise awareness. We could put nets in there to pull out, and I don't want to pull out fish, but we could put some kind of top net across the top to scrape all the rubbish off the top. And it might not solve the whole problem, but we can start doing things. And particularly, can we make a system whereby people put their rubbish somewhere else and not into the rivers? Plastic straws is another problem. Can we start promoting, an organization, can we start promoting the awareness at least that people should not use plastic straws, and they can start using metal straws that can be recycled, or paper straws that can be broken down in the environment very, very quickly, as opposed to plastic straws that are getting stuck in marine life and bogging up the bay. So there's so many things that we can do, and just because we might not be experts, we might not have a university degree, we might not have money, a lot of that kind of stuff, those things shouldn't get in the way, because if we've got the willingness to make change, we'll find a way to do something, and every little thing helps. So by now you should have written your idea and your big vision down. Now, I want you to, if you've downloaded that sheet that Kamal shared, you'll see that there's like a line with a heap of numbers on it, asking you the question, how much do you believe it's possible? And so what I want you to do, if you've downloaded the page, you put a circle around one of them, or if you're just writing on a piece of paper, write down a number, 1 to 10. 1 means I don't think it's very possible at all. I really don't think it's possible. Number 10 means, yes, I've absolutely got this. I know it's possible. I don't know how I'm going to do it. I don't know who's going to help me, but I can imagine it in my mind, and therefore it is 100% possible. It's a 10. So write a number between 1 and 10 that you think the idea is possible. And I'm going to say to you, please don't worry about how you're going to do it. Kamal, somebody has asked for that link again in the chat for the PDF. So it's just a PDF that you can download. Quite often we focus on how. I don't know how to do it, and I'm not an expert. I want you to not focus on that while we're doing this workshop, because if your will is big enough, I promise you will work out how once you start going, always. Okay, so I just want to make sure I didn't miss anything in that chat there. Hello, everyone from Pakistan. To create a more hospitality, yeah. Do you know what I love? I love that there's so much in the chat about marine life, about the bays and about the plastic pollution. I think this is, well, you guys know, I'm sure you know, this is one of our biggest problems, and we have to get on top of it, because we've already got those, I don't know what they call them now, I can't remember, but the plastic islands, that are just rubbish islands that are floating around, and we're going to end up with so many more of them if we don't get on top. And we all know, and I don't want to, hi from Jordan, I'm from Australia. This is fantastic. What a great group we've got. We all know that if we don't take care of the oceans are our most critical thing. That if the oceans die, well, things aren't looking good. So we've got to take care of the oceans. And we've got Mexico and fantastic. Just a quick recap. I want you to write down the idea you've got. Then I want you to write down your big vision. And then I want you to write down a number between 1 and 10 as to how possible you think this is. And I want you to completely forget about your why. Your how. Completely forget about the how. We don't need to know that right now. Okay, next thing I'm going to move on to is, what problem are you trying to solve? Now, some of these projects, in fact, a lot of these projects, not all of them, but a lot, will need funding or might need funding. And one of the things, or you might want to do some fundraising, or you might want to do a GoFundMe, or you might want to go to, let's say, a service club like a Rotary Club and ask for just $200 or something like that. But nobody wants to back a project if it's not solving a problem. So even if you know what the problem is, you need to be able to articulate it. So you need to start thinking about words that say what problem I'm solving, so that when you do a talk about it or you present it to somebody, you can actually explain the problem you're solving. So I'll give you a minute to write that down, and it can be any size problem. It doesn't matter. You just need to identify a problem. Otherwise, there might not be any point for the project. And I can tell you now, we've got 1 million problems in the world related to climate change and environment. You know, I just want to go off track a little, and it's not really off track, but just think about how if we focus just on climate change, you've got to think about as well all the things that are connected to climate change. And like the ecosystem is another thing. You know, we're completely taking away the natural habitats of animals. You know, they're moving into the towns. Everybody's clashing. You know, we're fighting for resources and that kind of stuff. You know, in Africa, and you know, which we're talking about Africa today in the day one. You know, there's a massive problem with poaching, and as we're taking species, you know, whole species off the planet, we're completely wiping them out. We're upsetting the ecosystem. When we upset the ecosystem, it upsets us. You know, the whole planet goes into a spin. And so one of the things, you know, I work with a guy in Tanzania, and what he's doing is he is educating all the villagers around where they're poaching, because that's one thing they do to get money, because there's nothing else to do. And what he's doing is creating soccer matches, you know, to raise awareness for poaching. And so, and he's, with the money he's raising from this, he's then helping people set up jobs so that they don't have to poach to make money. So these, while this sounds a little bit disconnected from climate change, all of these things help towards getting better balance on the planet. So that's another thing that you might want to think about. Is there something I could do that is not directly climate change, but it's assisting the problems that sit around climate change, that sit around our environmental issues? For example, if I'm going to try to avoid water pollution, I should campaign with the community and talk about the problem. Yes, you know, and I've talked to, now I'm just going to give you another example. I work with a lot of people around the world, a lot of young people that are really, really interested in making a better world. And yet I have 2 teenagers in my house who don't do much about it, despite the fact that I do, and I talk about it. And I got really, really upset about it, you know, a couple of weeks ago. And I said to the kids, what do you know about climate change? And they said, nothing. And I said, even though I talk about it? And they said, I don't know. And I said, so do you care about it? Is there a problem? They said, I don't know. I don't know anything about it. And so that made me realize that there is a massive gap in awareness and a massive gap in education. So when you're talking there about sharing, you know, campaigning with the community to raise awareness, absolutely, because sometimes when we're involved in it and when we care about it, we make the assumption that other people know about it and that other people care about it. And there is a massive gap out there that people are just not aware of the problem. People think they throw their trash and they don't ever think about where it goes to next. So yes, raising awareness is a wonderful project, and it's not, you can't minimize that project, because unless people know about it, they're not going to change. So I think that's fantastic. Now, we just talked about what problem are you trying to solve, and I'm hoping that everybody wrote down their problem. The next thing I want to ask you is, if you don't solve this problem, I'm not saying you have to, but if this problem isn't solved, what are the implications or the impact? What's going to happen if we don't solve this problem? Now, for example, we talk about cleaning the waterways and cleaning rivers or something like that. If the problem is that if we don't clean the rivers, it's going into the bay, And if our oceans become completely polluted, there's no hope for anybody. That's a massive problem. So if we don't solve it, what are the implications or the impact? The impact is we have no marine life, we have no biodiversity, our ecosystem is completely ruined, our rivers become completely toxic, and the ocean, and we're going to die. I mean, that's a massive, that's as blunt as I can make it. You know, like it's not good. So think about that. And when you're talking about raising awareness, you know, again, start talking to people about the problem with pollution. And if we don't solve the problem of pollution, what's going to happen down track? Because often when you're going to sell this to somebody to get funding or to get support, even just to get a bunch of people to support you, it needs to tap into their emotional system, into their emotional brain. So you can tell them the problem you're going to solve, and they might think, yeah, that's a problem, but it doesn't affect me. But if you tell them, no, hang on a minute, if we don't solve it, this is the impact, they start to realize, oh boy, this affects me. This is going to affect my kids. This is going to affect future generations. This is going to affect me and people I care about. So we need to be able to tell them what the impact will be if we don't solve this problem. So people keep coming in and out, so I hope they're not missing the whole guts of this, but you're recording this anyway. So what's fantastic is that people will be able to go back over this. So if you're just listening to me and writing things down and making notes, you can always go back to this recording and listen to it over again and have another go at it. Now, if we look over the page, the next thing is, what's your big why behind this project? Now, this becomes critical because your why is the thing that keeps you on track. Your why is the thing that gets you up in the morning. It's the thing that motivates you. It's the thing that picks you back up again when you get knocked down. And I can tell you that if you're going to be a warrior for the planet, and if you're going to be somebody who stands up to make a change, you are going to get worn out. There will be days when this burns you out because you won't see the progress you're making at times. And so you need to know why you're doing it, because your why is the thing that will pick you back up and get you back on track, because sometimes this work becomes exhausting. I can tell you it's worth it because the rewards are incredible, but there will be hard days. So what I want you to do is I want you just to brain dump now, just dump as many words or statements on your paper as possible, and don't edit them. Don't take the time to say, nah, that's not right. No thinking, all coming from your heart, just pouring it all out there on paper. Write down as many things as you can, as many reasons you can. Why do you want to do the project? So I'll be quiet for 2 minutes while you dump down as many words as you can. If you're stuck for something to write, you can think about this sentence. I think about this project every day because, and then write something else. I talk to people about this project every day or very often because. And if you're living this, that's all you can think about, like me, changing the world, that's all I ever think about. In fact, my partner asked me yesterday, do you ever stop working? And I said, no, because I love making a difference. But you can think about that. If you think about it all the time, why do you think about it all the time? What is it about it? I get out of bed every day because, and don't worry about the shower or going to work, but what am I driven to do? What am I driven to do? So I'm going to imagine and believe that you've written down a number of things about why. And what I want you to do is have a look at that list of things you've written. Is there something on there that really gives you an emotional charge? Is there something in that list of things that you've written that really touches your heart when you read it, that really you feel it in your body when you read that thing? And for now, and I'm going to say to you, always keep searching for your why. And your why is not just about this project. Your why transfers to everything you do. It transfers to your life. Why do you do this? And it might be as simple as, because I want to see a clean world. I want to see a clean planet, because I believe that we can all make a difference. Because, you know, that whatever it is, and it should transfer all across everything you do in your life, that it should be an underlying value of yours. And so what I want you to do is to start thinking about that, and start, even after today, after next week, after next month, constantly think about your why, constantly refine this why until you get it right down deep. Now, another way we can do it is to, we won't go through the whole process now, but another thing you can do is, once you identify that one thing that really gives you emotional charge, you can write that across the top of the page. And then underneath it, when you say, for example, because I want to make a better world. And then the next question you ask yourself is, why? And then write that answer underneath it. Why do you want to make a better world? Because people deserve to have freedom, or whatever you want to say. People deserve to have a clean planet. People deserve to have clean air, whatever it is. And then you can say underneath that, why? So it could be, why do they deserve to have a clean planet? Or if you can't get why to work, you say, why is that important? So you might say, because people deserve to have a clean planet. And the next question might be, well, why is that important? You know, and it might be because humanity is valuable. You know, every living species has value on this planet. Whatever it is, and you keep going down each line until you get, and you can't go any further. And that will be your why. And often that why is associated to your childhood, if you're older. And I remember doing this once with this, one woman in particular. She said she got down to her why, and it was because every child on this planet deserves to be heard. And my question to her was, when you were a child, were you unheard? And she said yes. And so very often it will come back to something that is so important to you, and something that you feel very, very, very deeply. Now, the other part of your why is, what's going to happen is, you've got this idea, and then you've got your vision, and your vision is big. And sometimes your vision will move. Now, you've got to be prepared for that. You've got to be flexible. You might have a vision now to say, well, this is what's going to happen. If I do this project, this is what's going to happen. I know from experience, and from all the people that I've worked with, very often your vision will move. It will shift, and it doesn't end up being exactly what you thought it would be. Now, your why is so important, because your why keeps driving you in the right direction. So it's the thing that fills the gap. And when you go, here's my idea, here's my vision, I don't know how to get there, your why is like the thing that just keeps pulling you towards where you're going. I'll give you an example of a vision. When I started One Planet Classrooms, it was for Africa, and it was to do Skype projects between the kids in Australia and the kids in Africa. And I wanted them to, their classrooms, to Skype together and learn about each other. And that's why I called it One Planet Classrooms. But what happened is that it was an absolute disaster trying to get laptops to Africa. The other disaster was that I sent laptops to a country, well, predominantly Uganda, where 95% of the people don't even have power. So hence, you know, the laptops wasn't a great idea. And the other thing is that the kids in Africa were asleep while the kids in Australia were in school. So there was never a crossover time where they were able to actually have a proper chance of this project. So basically my vision failed. I had an idea, I had a vision, and it failed. Now, why I love this story so much is because when I was setting this up, I had 45 schools in Africa register. And I started talking to the teachers, and the teachers started telling me that the kids are dying from drinking dirty water from out of these dirty ponds that animals use for toilets, and some men are using for toilets. And also that the girls are going to collect the water, and little girls, even as young as 3, were going to collect the water. And I didn't know at this point, I knew there was problems, but I did not know that it was the girls' job to go fetch the water. And then they started telling me about all the girls, young girls, that were being sexually assaulted along the pathway to get the water. Now, at that point, I had 2 choices. I could say, this is my vision, I'm doing a Skype project and I'm not budging. Or I could say, now that I know about all these girls and now I know about this issue, I'm going to shift my vision. And I did shift my vision. And my vision was still, my whole why was still to make a better world, to make a more equitable world, a world where girls are not an inferior sex, where girls are as valuable as boys. So it was easy. I shifted it, and now we put in water tanks in schools. We connect water to villages. We put in water wells. We put solar systems in schools so that the girls can study. We supply sanitary items. We set up sewing centres for the girls to make their own sanitary pads. And we've got a sponsorship program with 140 kids. And we also set up women's empowerment projects. So the point is that while I started off thinking I was going to do a Skype project, the universe, call it the universe, call it God, call it circumstance, whatever it was, shifted me to doing a much better project. So that's what I'm saying about your why. If you know what your why is, you know what's so important, it drives you to the right place. It really does. It unfolds right in the right way. Okay, so I'm hoping that everybody gets the importance of why. Why is the bomb? Why is the most critical thing? Why are you doing it? The next thing we're going to look at is what's in the way and what's stopping you from doing this project. So I want you to just quickly write one thing down, just quick. What is that thing that's stopping you? The first thing that comes to your head. Write it down. And the 2 things that come up the most people write down is time and money. Now, if you really, really, really want to do something, time is not a problem, because you can put 10 minutes a day into a project and it will still get momentum. So it's not time, that's not an issue. It might be down track, you know, but this is why you build support. This is why you build people around you. The other thing is money. Everybody says money. I can't do this because I don't have money. Now I've set up One Planet Classrooms, which is a not-for-profit. We churn over tens of thousands a year. It's not my money. I didn't start that with any money. That's from donations. I also run Girls with Hammers, which is a women's empowerment business. And we run conferences and to empower and connect women. We didn't start that with any money. I wrote 2 books. I didn't have any money to start them. I self-published them, and to self-publish costs $46. It's really not a lot of money. You can start anything with no money. You really can. So particularly when you're talking about awareness, raising awareness, start talking about your project. Talking costs you nothing. It costs nothing. And the only way you're going to get people on board to support you is to talk. So let's put money and time off the table for now, and let's look at some other things. So underneath all of this, so there's 2 parts to this. One side of it is I say time and money, but underneath is a whole lot of fear and self-doubt. And the other side of it is I don't have qualifications, I don't have the skills, I don't have the resources and all that sort of stuff. First of all, let's have a look at the side that talks about fear and self-doubt. So in my time of doing Get Off the Bench and working with a lot of other people over many years, I found that there's 5 reasons people don't get started. Self-doubt, imposter syndrome, and in case we've got a language barrier here or anything, imposter syndrome means that you feel like an imposter. You feel like nobody's going to believe you. Who am I to do this? Everybody's going to find out I don't have qualifications. Everybody's going to think I'm a fraud. That's imposter syndrome. Now, not one person on this planet should feel like an imposter if they're doing their thing with what they have to make a better world. You can't be an imposter because you're not an imposter of your life. That's off the table. So self-doubt, imposter syndrome. The next thing is being overwhelmed by the big picture. And then I don't know where to start. That's a big one. And the 5th one is fear. And it's fear of failure, fear of criticism, or fear of rejection. Would anybody say, I mean, I can't see you, but I'm going to reckon there's a few hands going up here. Would anybody say that any of those things are impacting them, are stopping them? So let me run through them again. Self-doubt, imposter syndrome, not knowing where to start, overwhelmed by the big picture, or fear. You can write yes in the chat, or you can write any of those in the chat if you want, but you don't have to. But yes, I can see up the top there. Meta, is it Meta? Yep. Says yes. Which one is it? Can you type in the chat which one you're feeling?
Okay, let me check.
Could be multiple of them. In fact, most people feel at least 2 of them when they're doing fear of criticism. Yep. Is that criticism because you feel that you want to implement something that goes against the grain of where you are? People are criticizing it because they think we don't want you to do that because you're going to upset the way we usually live. Or do you think the criticism is people saying to you, you're not good enough to do that? Why do you want to do that? You don't have the skills. Other people should be doing that, not you. Who do you think you are? Which one? 1 or 2? Going against the culture or something else?
Actually, it's a 2-way program. Oh, I'm so sorry. Good morning, everyone from Uganda. I'm Aline Midahope, and it's a 2-way thing. One is from the society I'm coming from. I think most Africans, young youth who are scaling up projects would feel the same because we are looked at as, in most cases, they call you as someone who's wisecking. You are wisecking. So when you come up to speak, in most cases, your idea is regarded as the last option. And once everything fails to work out, later on is when they will come and ask you, so you were saying? So at a point, you feel bad because everyone is like, no, you're too young, you can't do this. And also they feel like most of the things to do with change, decision making, and all is meant for the elders. So it's really hard for me to come up and do something without an elder coming up to talk about it, the good side of it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I would, for me, if I were you, I would see if I can get the support of an elder or two. Explain to them what the problem is and explain to them why you're so passionate about it. Now, I know I'm not saying this like I think it's easy, because I do understand. I do a lot of work with Uganda. I understand the cultural situations. I think that if you can get an elder on side, get somebody on side with you to support you. Does that make sense? So that even if they think that's their idea or that they're having some ownership of it, I know you don't want to do that, but there are a lot of people who do support young people, but you've got to find them. And I think that it's about just finding someone who can share it with you. What is your idea, by the way?
For the project I would like to implement, I'm more of into youth empowerment, and I'm into promoting quality education in a sense of not exactly the school process, but making every youth realize the power in the little knowledge they've obtained. So I more of go ahead to do youth empowerment and also counseling. And in most cases, the counseling I do is through reading and probably conferences I attend and gain knowledge. So while I'm doing it, I do not do it because I feel like I know it all, but in most cases, I love referring to elders who have done it before. So that's what I've been doing, and really, I've seen the impact of it, because in Uganda, you look at the G8 schools, the schools regarded as the great schools, whereby out in a scale of 1 to 100%, about 30% of the students in the G8 institutions are aware about their need to take part in sustainable development programs. So what is the whole point of a third world country like Uganda relying on youth who haven't been empowered? So that's why I decided to take on that lane.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. I absolutely love what you're doing, and I want you to send me an email. I'm putting my email in here for you, and for anybody else if they want. I will connect you with somebody in Uganda who works for young people and will probably be able to help you. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
That's okay, because I want you to go ahead and do that. And I work with a lot of people in Uganda, and they are all supportive of young people making change. So you just need to connect. You just need to know there are other people out there, and you need to make a network, and you can grow up. You can, I don't mean grow up, but you can build up together. Do you know what I mean? So please send me an email and I'll connect you with the right person.
I will. Thank you so much. I'm really humbled.
My pleasure. That's fantastic. All right, so I'm going to keep going on this, but you can see how I want this to be an example of when you speak up and when you share what you want to do, there will be people out there who can help you to make a difference and who can connect you. So please speak up. Please use your mouth. It's absolutely free to start talking about your topic. All right, so let me tell you a few ways we can get around this. And I can only touch on it because we haven't got time to do a whole big counseling session, but let me tell you a couple of things. If we're talking about self-doubt, I doubt myself, I want you to think about a past achievement that you had where you didn't think you were going to be able to do it, but you did do it. I want you to go back and think about that. And then think, and for example, if you're old enough to drive, when you got your license, like that's just one thing. Or when you passed school, or, when you learned to cook, or just anything, right? Before you did it, how did you feel? And before you did it, you were feeling like, oh, I doubt myself. I don't know if I can do it. I really don't know if this, I'm so scared. I don't know if I can do it. But then during it, while you were doing it, you started thinking, oh, wow, oh, I think I can do this. It's actually working. And then when you finish doing it, when you achieved it, you're like, yes, I did it. I absolutely did it. And that's what you need to think. When I have self-doubt, go back and think about a past achievement and how you felt before, during, and after. And that's a really good way of thinking, because we can do anything. Self-doubt is a load of rubbish. It just is. We measure it on, past people saying things and all that kind of stuff. We can do it. So the next thing is imposter syndrome. Now, imposter syndrome is, I want you to think about one thing in particular. You are not an imposter of your life. You are the only one who can say, this is me, this is my experience, this is what I know. And you don't have to know everything. You do not have to know everything to make a difference. And the other thing with imposter syndrome is keep evidence. Keep evidence. So whenever you do anything that's to do with this, anything, like for example, youth empowerment. When did you last help somebody? Oh, I helped Mary. She came to me because she was feeling terrible and I helped her. Write that down. That's evidence. That's evidence that you're not an imposter. When did you last do it? What doesn't matter. Just anything you can think of that's related to what you want to do, that is evidence that you can do this and you have done it. Write that down. And you always go back and keep looking over your evidence. The other thing is that with imposter syndrome, please believe and understand that every single person experiences imposter syndrome. I have done some amazingly successful things in my life, and every single day I have imposter feelings. Every single day, and I have to go and have a look at my folder, pull it out, and go, Karen, you are not an imposter. Look at everything you've done. Get on with it. So we all experience it. Even the most famous people in the world experience it. If you're overwhelmed by the big picture, all you need to do is start breaking it down into manageable chunks. We're going to do this at the end. We're going to look at how we can break this down a lot more. But break it down, and then you can start ticking off tiny little pieces. Don't worry too much about that, because we are going to do that near the end. The other thing is, I don't know where to start. There's only one answer, is start. Start talking, send an email, call somebody, tell somebody about it, write it down, draw a poster, just start doing anything, because the momentum will start to carry. Once you start something, and I'm going to call it God, the universe, what your inner being, whatever you want to believe in. It doesn't matter. Once you start, you're telling that whatever, that other energy, that's it. We're off and running. We're going. And what happens is it all just starts to build and it starts to go. And the last thing is fear of criticism, rejection, or failure. There's a ton of other fears under that as well. The biggest antidote for fear, the only way to get over fear, is to take action. That's the only way to get over it. Take action. Now, on the other side of this, what's in your way, you might be thinking, well, I don't have enough knowledge. I don't have enough skills. I don't have enough connections. I don't have enough resources, all of that sort of stuff. You need to identify what they are, and you need to work out what the gap is and how can I get that. If I need more skills, how can I get more skills? Who can I volunteer for? Who can I talk to? Who can help me? All of that kind of stuff. If I need a certificate, where can I get this certificate? Who can help me get a certificate? So it's just about closing the gap on all that other stuff that is about knowledge, skills, experience, resources, that kind of thing. So I'm going to leave it there and turn over the page to ask you, be initiative. Yeah, I think that's good. That take initiative. You know what? Nobody else is going to do it for you. You just have to get started. You just have to get started. And if you think that people doubt you, or that everyone's going to, criticize you, or everybody's going to run you into the ground, and everyone's going to think you're an imposter, think about now the POP movement. I mean, here you are on this call with the POP movement. It's been organised by the POP movement, the whole festival. Join the pop movement if you haven't already, because here we are, we're talking about a bunch of people all around the world who already believe in what you're doing before you've even done it, before you've even started. They already believe in you. So join the pop movement if you haven't already, or use the resources, use the people in there. If you need someone to give you a pick up and say, yes, you can do it, there's a bunch of people around the world that are part of the pop movement that will pick you up and get you going. That's their job. They love doing it. It's true, isn't it, Kamel? It's true. It's true. I love this. I just want to say there's one comment here before I, from the pop movement. From my side, for any project to be successful, must follow the smart measurable system. Yeah, so specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time bound. So if you don't know the SMART tool, SMART measurements, just look it up. So SMART, SMART, and it will give you, you know, does your project needs to be specific, it needs to be measurable, all that kind of stuff. I'm not covering that in this because that's a little bit further. For me, what I want to do is inspire you to believe that you can and get started. Once you get started, have a look at that SMART measuring system, you know, and start to have a look at how you can align your project with all of those acronyms with the SMART system. So, all right, now the next thing we're going to look at is over the page. Is your idea the type that would best run as a pilot first in order to gain evidence and trust? Now, the reason you might have this really big idea and it's fantastic. For example, I'm going to clean all the waterways in my country. That's great. And I think that's wonderful and that's a great vision. However, somebody might not believe you, like you're saying, you know, you're never going to do that. That's too big, all of that kind of stuff. I need $50,000 to do this. No, not giving you $50,000 because that project's too big. That idea is too big. Now, this will happen to some people when you want to do something really big. People will say, nah, I'm not going to back you because I don't know how you're going to do this. And you haven't got any evidence at all. And you haven't proven anything that you can do it. Think about, can it be broken down into a pilot project, which means, can you make it a tiny little project that is like a tiny version of your big project so that you can get some runs on the board, so that you can get some evidence, so that you can say to people, look, I know I want to clean every river in Venezuela, but I know you think it's too big. Guess what I did? I cleaned one river. And this is how I did it. And then people start to say, I do believe you can. If you can clean one river, I believe that you can clean 10. Or if you want to start empowering youth, start by empowering 3 people. My big vision is I want to empower youth and I want to run a big organisation where 3 million Ugandan women come together and they're empowered. What a wonderful vision. But people are going to think, wow, that's a big ask. So start with one thing in your neighbourhood and get 3 girls, 5 girls. Start getting them there once a week, every Saturday afternoon. Get them there. Start talking to them, ask them, what do you want? How can we build a program that's going to help empower you? And then you've got this program that's up and running, and then you can go to people and say, I'm doing it. I'm already doing it in this village. Now I want to do it to 4 more villages. And what you do is you just replicate and expand on what you've already done as a pilot program. So have a think about the thing that you want to do. Yeah, it's like starting small, exactly. It's just proving, you're gathering evidence. Plus, it doesn't cost you much money, doesn't take you much time. You're learning as you go. People are much more forgiving. You get yourself a little section of it and you do it. And then you build from there. But always keep in mind your grand idea. Always keep that in mind, because that's your driver that'll keep you going. So have a think about it. With your idea, can you break it down into something tiny and let go of the big vision just for a minute, just to think about, can I do something tiny? Some people have said to me in the past, yes, but I don't want to impact 3 people. I want to impact 1 million. And I get that. And that is so valuable. And it's so wonderful that people think so big. I think that's wonderful. And they will impact 3 million as they go. But sometimes you just got to pull it back, because you're going to need support, and you've got to prove to people what they're supporting. There are a lot of organizations in the world that do give funding, that do help, that do give support, but unless you can prove it, they won't do it. Some will if you can write a good proposal, but a lot won't. So you need to have evidence to prove it. So the next thing we want to look at is what resources. Is there any questions on that? I'm just going to stop for a second and make sure that everybody's up to date. If anybody wants to ask any questions or any reflection on where we've been so far, please feel free to put something in the chat or to unmute, as long as not everybody unmutes at the same time, because that's chaotic. But if anybody wants a recap, or they want to just check in on something, please do. Yes, Obasi John. Yep, you can unmute if you like and ask a question.
Okay. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good afternoon, and good evening. I want to use this opportunity to appreciate the speaker. I've been following your lecture. You're a wonderful teacher. Thank you for that teaching. So my question is, I want to find out, we're talking about getting started, or to start doing something or a project. The area I'm going to is the area of getting the right team or the right persons to join you or to achieve a particular project. I cite myself, for instance, during the pandemic. My first project was in the school where, when I was serving the National Youth Service Corps. So during the pandemic, I went to a school. I did our 6th project, and that project happened to be during the pandemic. So where I'm trying to drop out is getting the right person. Among my team members, I got a person that nearly discouraged me not to do the work. So please, I want to find out, I want you to balance it. How can we identify the right people that will be a source of motivation for us to move on to do what the idea we have to execute, knowing fully well that the SDG goal is getting to be achieved by 2030. How do we get the right people to achieve our aim? Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'll just say that I hope I caught enough of that, because it's very noisy and you were cutting in and out quite a bit. So I think that the best advice I can offer at the minute, based on what I could catch, is that, I think when you're talking about people criticizing you and people telling you not to, and sort of people trying to put you off and discourage you, I think that when you got to remember that in every country, we've got a culture, and we've been doing the same thing for years and years and years and years. And when you try to make change, people don't like it. You know, people get upset that there's change coming. And often when if they don't see the impact, and this is why I was talking about earlier about what's the problem and what's the impact if we don't resolve it. If people don't see the impact and they don't see that there's a problem, they often say to you, just let it go, leave it be. We're doing fine. Everything's fine. We don't need this project. We're happy. And so this is why you need to be able to express the problem, and you need to tell them what the impact will be if we don't resolve it. There are always going to be people who discourage you, and there are always going to be people who criticize, and there are always going to be people who try to cut you off. I think that you've got to have strength in yourself, and this is why we did the why, is we need to know, why are we getting up every day? I'm just going to turn that down a bit so that you stop getting all the buzzes that come through. Why am I doing this? And sometimes, you know, I don't know if you've ever seen or heard, sometimes it's a lonely road. Sometimes you've got to stand on your own, even if you're going against the grain, you know, even if you're standing there shaking and you're the only one doing it. If you believe in something enough, you've got to keep going forward and just believe back yourself. Now, when I talked about talking, you know, keep talking. Even if 10 people say that's stupid, 10 people discourage you, find that one, just keep talking, believe in yourself, believe in what you want to do, know why you're doing it, and be passionate about your why, and keep telling people and keep getting rejections. Every time you get a no, you're one step closer to a yes. And you just got to remember that every time someone says no, you're getting closer and closer and closer to the person who's going to say yes. And this year alone, I am on a mission to get 100 rejections. I'm trying my hardest to get 100 rejections, because that means that I put myself out there so far, you know, so far out there, that if I get 100 rejections, I will have got so many more yeses. So you've just got to keep pushing. And I don't have an answer, because I can't tell you every single person in your community who's going to help. I don't have that answer. You have to believe in yourself. You have to know your why. You have to keep going, and you have to know that there are always going to be people who say no, but there will be people who say yes, and you've got to keep talking, and you've got to find them. At the minute, that's about the best. That is about the best I can offer, but I hope that helps. And it's discouraging when you're trying to save the planet. It can get very discouraging, very disheartening. You can feel like you're working nonstop, and there are just people trashing the planet everywhere you look. It can be very discouraging. But if every single one of us, like on this call, we all do our thing, and it grows, and then, you know, 10 people turns into 100, turns into 1,000, turns into 1,000,000. That's the only way we can do it, until we reach a tipping point where the world is a better place. And we have to keep going, because the alternative is not good. And we say we don't have a planet B, and we don't have a planet C or D or E or F or any other planet. We've got this one, and we have to keep going. So I hope that's helpful. All right, I'm going to move on to the next thing. Is what resources do you imagine you might need? So if you're going to do this project, write down a list of all the resources that you think you need for it. Now, it might only be pen and paper. It might just be a room at the back of a church, or you know, somebody's office, or it might just be a laptop. It might be something really simple like that. If you're going to clean the waterways, and you're going to clean rivers and all that kind of stuff, you may need a boat. You know, you may need nets. You may need, you know, all sorts of other stuff. But so write down everything you need. You might need a bus to transport people if that's part of your project. You know, you might need the internet. Like, I don't know, whatever you can think of, write it down now. You might end up with a list of 2 things, and you might end up with a list of 100 things. And what I would encourage you to do after this call is to keep adding to that list. Make sure you can think of every resource that you need. What's going to happen here is that you might write down 50 resources and then start to think, I can't do this. I'm never going to get these resources. But I can assure you, you will get the resources. You just have to identify them. You'll never get the resources while they're all in your head and while you're thinking, I can't get them. Once you get them on paper and start to notice what you need and what you don't have, then they start coming to you. Then you know what to look for. So write down a list of all your resources that you might need. I'm going to have another sip of my beautiful turmeric tea while you're doing that. You want to ask something, Mita? You're on mute. Just have to unmute yourself.
It wasn't exactly asking, but I wanted to react to something that you had said, more of like second it. You mentioned of how lately the biggest infringe against someone's dream is time. The excuse is time, and then fear. So I wanted to share with you something that I got to realize, because I've interacted with 3 youth within Uganda, who have really amazing projects as well. But then this is what they actually, you talked of time and money, yeah. But then this is what they brought in. Number one was money to them. So one thing that I got to realize is that with or without money, as you said, someone can scale up a project. In this case, for me, I look out for the 3 T's. That's time, treasure, and talent. Once you have all those and you give it your all, you'll achieve it. So we put the money aside and I try to guide them on these 3 aspects. The time, how many hours per day would you give your project, or at least per week, since we are all students? So we share that out. And then now the talent, what can you do to make this happen? I can speak, I can network, I can. So now that those are the skills they had. Then I was like, so what next? What else is holding you back? Money. You really don't have the money. You really don't need to have the money to start this, because you're going to a cancer institution whereby the service is needed. It's a need. It's not a want. So once you tell them of your interest, you can always network with people who have already been here, and they'll become partners to help you scale up your project. So right now, as I speak, they've actually started working on their projects, and I think it's something that so many other youth need to learn. So while we've listened to you today, it's millions and thousands of youth outside there who really can't figure this out. That's why I was like, it was a really brilliant topic.
Thank you. I'm so happy. So happy it's made a difference. I love the work you're doing. I love what you're doing. And I was guessing on 3 youth, but I didn't know you had 3, but I mustn't, maybe I know something, maybe we're channeling. That's fantastic. Love it. Love it. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. All right, I'm going to, I guess you've all written down what resources you might need. And I will say that even after this call, you will think of other resources. Please write them down, even though your list might start getting really long. Write them down anyway. And then the next question is, which of these resources do you already have? And, we were just talking, just then, like Mita talked about, we already have time and we already have talent and that sort of stuff. They are resources. They are resources, even though they're skills. But you might already have a laptop. You might already have the internet. You've already got pens and paper. You might already have a space, like small room in the back of a church, or you might have somewhere else that you're gathering. You know, if you're going to do cleaning up the bays and you need the nets with floats to skim off the top, it might be that, you know, your dad already has these nets. You know, like what do you already have that is handy to you? And the other thing is to think about what you have access to. So it's not just what you have in your possession. What do you have access to? For example, if I need the internet, but I don't have the internet at home, do I have access to an internet cafe? Do I have access to the internet at university or at school or at work? You know, so think about, it might not, or you know, if I don't have space at home, is there a desk, a spare desk at work that I could use after hours? So think about what's already around you that you could utilize or that you have access to. And then we look at the next bit is, where can you get the balance of these resources? So things that you don't have, and you think things that you can't get access to, where could you get them? Now, while we're doing this right now, I don't expect you to have the answers, because clearly if you knew where you were going to get them, you would have gotten them by now. So you're not going to have the answers right now, but I want you to think about this. And for example, if we need a boat to drag a skimming net up a river to clean all the pollution, but we don't have a boat and we don't have any money and we can't afford a boat, where are we going to get this boat from? And what happens is a lot of people will think, I have to buy something, right? Now, you don't always have to buy something. Does a friend's uncle have a boat that can take you up the river, you know, 3 Saturdays in a row to clean up the river? And he might want money for petrol money, or you might have a skill that you can swap. So for example, this guy might have a boat that he has a hire company. He hires out his boat, but he doesn't have a website. But you know how to build a website. So can you swap your resources? So for 3 Saturdays or 4 Saturdays, he drives you up this river 3 or 4 times with a skimming net, and then you build him a website because you have the skills to do that, and he couldn't do that. So is there a way you can swap resources with anybody? That type of thing. If you need money, can you, or if someone wants to exchange something and they want money and you don't have money, can you offer to clean their house? Can you offer to tutor their kids, you know, for two Sundays or 2 Saturdays? Like, think about what sort of things you can do to bargain, to offset any cost if you're needing money to get some of these resources. There are a lot of people out there who have the resources that you need. They'd be happy to share them with you, but it needs to be an exchange. Sometimes I'll just give it to you for free, but I like to think in life, I like to think that we exchange, you know, because it's an exchange of value that is, it's valuable to people. You know, their time is valuable to you. How can you give something back to them that's valuable to them? Don't forget to utilize, I'm not going to say they're great in every single country, but the Rotary Club, you know, services like that as well. Sometimes if you go and do a talk for them, they will give you, you know, $100 or something like that for a project. And I'm not going to pretend that they're all great, because I know they're not, but there are good service clubs out there who are willing to support in that way. You know, I've got a local one that's bought us 2 water tanks, and they're $2,500 each. You know, and they've put in the money for that. So there's another one that gave us, you know, $50. So they weren't as good, but there are people out there who will help. So I want you to think not about what can I buy so that I own it, but what do I have around me that I can negotiate that I can negotiate with people or negotiate with organizations, or can somebody sponsor me for advertising? Do you have a space where somebody can have their logo or their company advertised? Like if you've got a website and you need $200 to do something, you can say to people, I've got a website. I'm happy to put you on as our major partner if you can give us $500 to help us get this net or to help us to get something. You know, there's always space, there's always opportunity. So think way beyond just I need to have the money to buy this thing. So think outside that square. Now, and the other thing is too, you know, you if you're looking for funding, you've got to get your story right. And this is why earlier in the workshop we talked about your problem. So you need to be able to talk about the problem and the impact of what will happen if you don't solve the problem, but your why becomes important. Now, if you go to and do a presentation for funding and you say to them, well, I've got this project and this is what it is. I'm helping 3 girls or 5 girls and I want to empower them. That's not convincing. What happens is that goes to the thinking part of the brain. They start thinking about it. It gets too hard. They say no. But if you go to them with a story about your why, as soon as you start talking about why this is important, it hits their emotional part of their brain and they will make decisions much quicker and easier if you hit their emotions. So this is why your why becomes critically important, when you can explain, this is why I'm doing it. This is the problem I've got. This is why I want this resolved. People buy into it much quicker. They don't care how you're going to do it. They just want to know why you're doing it, because that hits their brain, and that your emotional brain is connected to your heart. They make decisions much quicker. They get on board much quicker. I hope I haven't confused you with that, and I don't want to get all scientific about how our brains work, but it's really important to think about that when you're trying to get money, is to sell it by solving the problem and telling them why it's important to you. Okay, over the page, we've got what risks can you identify? So this is the part that people don't like doing. It's kind of the killjoy part of the workshop. It's like, oh, I have to do risks, and it's only the health and safety people that really, really love this part. But you have to know the risks. You have to know them. And the risks are going to be incredibly different in every different country. Some risks can be life-threatening. Some risks can just be, like I'm going to lose $50. So it can be completely different for wherever you are. But you need to write your risks. You know your risks, and you need to write them down. And as you write them down, you start looking at them and think, oh, I don't really want to do this project now because there's too many risks. Now, once you get them written down, though, that's great, because they're out of your head. You stop worrying about them. They're on paper, and then you can start thinking, right, now that I can see them in front of me, how am I going to mitigate them? What am I going to do to start minimizing these risks or reducing them? Because if you're asking for money, people will ask you, what are the risks? And what have you thought about? What have you thought about that will eliminate or reduce the risks? So people will ask you that question. So you need to be ready. When you're talking about risk, we're not just talking about personal safety. We're not just talking about somebody getting their hand cut off in the boat engine or anything like that, propeller. When it's not just that. We're talking about financial risk. We're talking about emotional risk. We're talking about your reputation. That kind of stuff. There are a whole stack of risks that are not just about safety. If you're dredging up stuff out of a river, are you going to start dredging up stuff that's going to create a health risk for people living on the river? You need to think about that, because you need to think about when someone asks you about it, that you have an answer to what you're doing to minimize or reduce it. And the next question is, how can you mitigate them? So mitigate is how can we avoid them, reduce them, eliminate them, get around them. What can we do to make sure that these risks are not going to become a massive problem in the future. All right. I don't expect that you're going to know all of these right now. In fact, the whole worksheet, I don't expect that you're going to have all these answers in 2 hours. This is something that you're going to have to keep coming back to and keep adding to and keep building on and start fine-tuning it. Now, the next thing we've got is what are 5 big picture actions you need to take? So when I talked about before about being overwhelmed by the big picture, there's so much I have to do and it's just too much. One of the things that will stop you is all of this information churning around and around in your head. I've got to do this. I've got to do that. I have to do this. Oh, whatever. Oh, it's too much. I can't do it. If you start writing things down, and I keep saying this, and I'm going to keep saying it, get it out of your head onto paper, because then you clear up some space in your head for thinking. Now, when I write say this about what are 5 big picture actions you need to take, think about, okay, I need to do a website. I need to do all the IT. That's one thing. I need to do a website. I need to set up a social media page. I need to set up Facebook. I need to set up, I need to get a LinkedIn profile. I need whatever. So let's just say IT or internet or web stuff. So that would be one of them. What's the next big thing? Well, I need to get some volunteers on board. That's a really big thing. I don't know how to do that. I need to get a whole bunch of people that are going to support me. Another big thing is funding. Where I need $10,000. I don't know where I'm going to get this $10,000 from. So you start to think of the 5 big picture things. Now, this might end up being 3 big picture things, depending on your project. It might end up being 7 big picture things. But try and think of the real big silos, those really big categories that you need to look at. And then once you've put them across the top in the darker shaded area, or just doesn't matter if you haven't got the paper in front of you, once you've written those big 5 areas or more, underneath each one, start to write it. For example, like I said about IT or anything to do with the internet. So you might want to, I have to get the internet turned on. I need a laptop. I've got to get a website built. I need to start up a Facebook page. I need to get a LinkedIn profile. I need to, get a Twitter account, set up a Twitter account. I need to work out, if I'm doing a podcast, I need to work out a podcast hosting platform. I need to, get how am I going to send that feed to Apple? I've got to set up my Apple account. So put all of those things that are relevant to that under that heading. Funding, what do I need? And then sort of where am I going to get it from? What ideas do I have to ask for it? If you need transport, write everything under there that I need to do for transport. I need to work out how I can get a bus. I need to go and ask some hire companies how much they charge. Can we get push bikes? Can we hire push bikes? I need a boat, like all of that kind of stuff go under there. Now you might end up with a page full of stuff and you're going to be thinking, I can't believe how much is on this page. I am never going to get this done. There is so much stuff. Yes, it's going to look like that, but I can tell you doing that is the best thing that you can do, because you clear your head. And then what you start doing is you start noticing little things, tiny little things that I can do. I need to set up a Facebook page for this thing, right? I'm going to do that this week. And you just tick that off. I've done it. It's done. It's out of the way. It's fantastic. I need to set up a LinkedIn profile. Okay, I'm going to do that this week. Tick. It's done. Okay, Kamel, you muted me. So I don't know what somebody muted me. That's all right. We're back on again. I don't know what I missed there, or what you missed there. Let me put you back onto gallery. What I was saying was that if you've got everything written down and you start doing little actions at a time, before long, you are going to have your entire list checked off. You're going to start making some progress. And before when we talked about, I don't know where to start, this gives you the opportunity to find somewhere to start. It might only be a list of resources I need, and it might only be I need to get some pens and paper. I need to get, a memory stick, that kind of stuff. Tick it off. And every time you tick off a small thing, you're moving closer and closer and closer to getting what you want. Is that making sense to everybody? It looks massive. It looks massive. But when you can see things broken down, tick little things off, you're going to feel this sense of achievement. You're going to feel fantastic because you're starting to move and everything starts to move and you're like, wow, I did it. Wow, I did it. Oh, I did that. And you're going to feel this sense of achievement. Your successes are going to start driving you towards the next success and the next success, and you're going to feel fantastic. So it's a really critical thing to write down everything you have to do and get stuff out of that head, because our heads, they're messy. They're horrible things. And we've got so much going on in our life that everything's just tangled. So get it out. Now, I'm going to ask you the last question. That doesn't mean we're finished, but it's the last question for this worksheet. Is I want you to write down, what is the first step? So what is the first thing you're going to do? And it can be as small as, I'm going to talk to somebody. It can be send an email. It can be research, skimming nets, research boat hire companies. I'm going to make a phone call to my friend who I know has got an office at the back of their, my friend's dad is a minister at the church, and I know they've got a room at the back that they don't use on Saturdays. I'm going to make that phone call. I'm going to start writing up a program. I'm going to write all my ideas I'm going to map it out. I'm going to draw a picture of how I want my project to look. It doesn't have to be big, but you have to start. And I'll also put this, I'm going to put a bit of a challenge to you, that you need to do it in the next 24 hours. You need to do that first step in the next 24 hours. Because if you don't, you'll lose the hype and then it becomes a big challenge again. Just do something today. Ring somebody today, or get out a pen and paper and start brainstorming your idea. And another thing too, use as often as you can, don't use your computer first. Always brainstorm with pen and paper, because it actually activates part of your brain that makes it stick. You remember it, and you're accessing your right brain, which is going to be more innovative, and it's going to give you a lot more access to what can I do, problem solving and all that kind of stuff. Leave the left brain stuff to typing it up later. The other thing is, if you draw with, you do drawings rather than words, or as well as words, drawing, and I can't remember the percentage, but I think it's something like 60 something percent more likely that you're going to achieve it if you draw it in pictures. And that's because it's really easy for the brain to understand and to build a sequence to say, oh, how are we going to achieve that? Now that I see it in a picture, I'm going to start working on it. I can put it into a sequence and make it happen. So while I'm not being very scientific or technical about that, trust me, that absolutely works. So write down, what is the first step you're going to take? And now I want to come back to that. At the very start, I asked you to put a number in the that line with numbers 1 to 10. How possible is it? And I'd love you to stick a love heart or a hand or something up on you. Do a reaction to tell me if that number has moved up the scale closer to 10. And I really hope so. Well, then I'm going to assume, oh yeah, there we go. There's a party hat, a party popper. I don't see many. Maybe nobody's listening. Maybe everybody's having a snooze. But, you know, I really hope that you've moved it up the scale closer to 10, because I can tell you that the only thing stopping you is you. The only thing stopping you is you. And you can absolutely do it. So that is it as far as the formal stuff goes. I want to, if you turn over the page, or if you got that PDF in front of you, and I really hope that's been helpful, and I really hope that that's inspired you to, you know, move on to the next stage of your project, or at least to kick it into gear and let's get going. And over the page are some further things to consider that are I think that they're really important if you start to brainstorm these things. What benefits can you foresee, short-term and long-term, to who and why and how, all of that kind of stuff. So think about your beneficiaries, who's going to benefit from your project. And then really start breaking that down, because if you're going to start asking for funding as well, that's another thing. They're going to want to know how the beneficiaries are going to benefit and what's it going to do to change their lives. And the beneficiaries may be the planet. By the way, it could just be the planet, and that's not a bad thing either. But who is going to benefit? And when I say that, I'm saying that a little bit tongue in cheek, because every single human is going to benefit if the planet benefits. You know, that's how it's going to work. So, but you need to think about how they're going to benefit short-term and long-term, how they're going to benefit, why they're going to benefit, write all that down, because this just builds your story for selling your project. Everything you can add to this story about why it's important is going to sell your project. You just sitting there saying to somebody, I want to do this idea, I want to do this thing because I think it's a good idea. That doesn't really sell it. The more information you've got for people, the more your heart's connected to it, the more it's going to sell it. Okay, the next thing is connections. Who do you know and what can you ask them for? Now, I have got a clause in here, do not use people. Do not take advantage of people, because that's the quickest way to ruin your project, is taking advantage of people. But who do you know? What do they have? And before I use the example of, you know, my friend's father is the minister at a church, and they don't use it on Saturdays. Can I ask him if I could use the back room at the church on Saturdays to have my girls empowerment group? You know, that type of thing, right? So think about who you know, what you could ask them for, and also who do they know? Who do they know? And going back to what I said before, be prepared. Be prepared to give something in return. Be prepared to offer your talents or your services in return to help them do something that they can't achieve. And then we look at your tribe and your supporters, and think about what your project is about. And you're going to need people to help you. You're going to start needing to build a tribe and a big bunch of supporters. And where do they hang out? Now, for example, on this example that I've sent you, we're talking about an environmental school education program. And so if you were going to set up a school education environmental program, where would you find people to support you? So what do they look like? They're going to look like students, parents, teachers, youth, people in leadership roles, people with an environmental focus. Who are these people that you're aiming at, and who are the people that you need to get involved to make this happen? And where do they hang out? Well, they hang out at school, universities, libraries, their online groups. They might hang out at environmental rallies. So where are these people that you really need to get hold of to start building a tribe to do this? And then how can you connect with them? When we talk here, this is just normal stuff, you know, face-to-face, flyers, business cards, posters, social media, emails, doing presentations. Just how can you get yourself in front of them to connect with them. And if you've downloaded the PDF, underneath you'll see blank spaces that say your tribe. So think about your project and think about what the people look like that are going to support you. Where do they hang out and how you can connect with them? Because you are going to have to start connecting with people to start building it. And there will be people out there who believe in you. There will be people out there who believe in your project and who want to support you. But you've got to back yourself first. You've got to step up to the plate and you've got to take your why with you and stand there strong and sell that thing and sell the vision. Sell your vision, sell your why. And if you can connect it to people's values, why is this important to them? Well, it's important because if we don't fix the world, you know, there's a lot of trouble. But you need to, if you say to people, if we don't fix the planet, we're in a lot of trouble. People don't buy that. People don't care. They can't see. But if you start talking about stories that will impact their kids, if you start talking about the kids in Indonesia who are now, you know, ending up with all these diseases because they're drinking out the water that's out of the polluted rivers and blah, blah, blah. People associate with that. People think, hey, I've got a daughter. I don't want my daughter ending up like that. You know, so you start to think about how you can connect their values with a story that holds similar values. So that's about it. That's about all I've got for you. We've finished a little bit earlier than we planned, but if you've got any questions or anything like that, or and keeping in mind if you've got questions, some of the internet connections are a little bit unstable, so it's a little bit hard to hear you. But I hope if you don't have questions, that's fine too. But I really hope this has been helpful. So Abasi John has got a question. And your internet's not that great, so let's try it. Well, I'll do my best. I'll do my best to hear you. Can you unmute yourself?
Thank you so much for
So, Upasi, if you have a network issue, you may type your question in the chat.
Yeah, Abasi, your internet is frozen. It keeps cutting out. So Kamal just suggested maybe you can tell me anyway, but you might need to put it in the chat as well. So have another go.
Please, can you hear me? Oh, can you hear me?
We can.
Yeah.
Okay. During the course of your lecture, if I should get it right, you said if your father is a minister of the church and after the service, you can likely take permission from him or her to start up your activity. I want to find out, what if your program or your idea is non-religious or non-political? So how do we handle that situation? Like for instance, I have opportunity to meet with the Commissioner of Environment. I have an idea. I went with a proposal. So after we met them, they said that it is not in their jurisdiction to support or sponsor that project. Actually, it was a very good idea. So I'm asking, what if your project or your initiative is non-political, is non-religious? How can we find ourselves in such an environment? Or how can we get sponsor from people that your mission, your idea is not related to the organization you find yourself? So that's my first question. My second question is, how do we get organization in an international community like all these United Nations to sponsor most of all these ideas that we have? Because I see that most of the challenge we're having in Africa as a whole, not just in Nigeria here, is getting sponsors, people that will sponsor the idea because we have idea, we have good initiative, but we lack resources to implement or execute this idea. So these are a few questions I want you to quickly clarify me. Thank you so much.
All right. All right. Thank you for that. There's a number of things I want to say to that. First of all is, can you make a smaller idea that is, so it's like a pilot program. So can you do something really small that doesn't really cost anything, just to prove to them that you've got a good idea? Or can you, so that you don't need a big sponsorship right now and you don't need their approval right now. Can you just get something started? That's the first thing. The second thing is that, you talk about it's not in their jurisdiction and all of that, that kind of stuff, and they don't give you permission or whatever. But, we don't need to be, sometimes we don't need that. Sometimes we can just go and do something without the jurisdiction. With all the stuff that I do in Uganda, I do not go through the government at all. I go right under the radar completely, because I don't want the government to have anything to do with my program. So that's another thing. The third thing is, when you talk about it's not religious and it's political, I would put it back to, when we're talking about the church and using the church, but you don't have a religious program, I would put that back to the very thing that religions talk about is humanity. This is one thing that sort of it gets to me a little bit, is that, if it's not religious, we can't do it. But isn't religion supposed to be saying that we care about humanity? Isn't it supposed to be saying that we're trying to make a better world for people, and that we're trying to make our people feel less suffering and all of that kind of stuff? And if you can show that there's a connection to improving the world for humanity, isn't that what religions are supposed to be doing? Isn't that they talk about love, they talk about loving each other, they talk about reducing suffering, they talk about, caring for one another and supporting one another? If you've got an environmental project that's going to make the environment so much better for humanity, isn't that supporting what religions are supposed to be talking about? Do you see what I'm saying? Like, is there a way you can connect the values of what religion? I know I'm saying it in a way like that, it's so simple, and I know it's not that simple. I know that it's but the truth of the matter is, it should be that simple. Like it should be that religion is supposed to be supporting humanity to love one another. That's what it's supposed to be. So is there a way that you can call them out on that and say, this is what it's supposed to be about? My program is helping humanity. My program is reducing suffering. My program is, this is what you're supposed to be preaching. I mean, I don't know if there's a way you can do that, but I would. I don't know if that's going to cause you problems in your community, and I don't want you to do that for yourself. But is any of that making sense, or is any of that helpful at all? I don't have an exact answer for you because I'm not there experiencing what you're going through, but is there a way you can make it smaller to start showing people an example of what you've got? Can you shift your project slightly? You might be doing something a little bit different to what you want to do, but is there a way you can do something a little different so that you can get the evidence, so that then you can slowly move it back over to your other project as part of it? I think that nothing's impossible. I think that we have to think about things differently. Sometimes we have to be prepared to be flexible and to bend a little bit on what it is that we want to achieve, so that we can eventually come back to what we want to achieve. But sometimes we've got to play the game. And I hate saying that, but sometimes we do have to play the game, and we have to tell people what they want to hear. And we have to shift things around so that it suits other people And then behind the scenes, we keep working on it so that eventually we can swing it round to what we want. But we need to get a following first. We need to get people on board first. I hope that makes sense. That's the best I can offer in this environment, and you know, with what we've got. The other thing is to look. The pop movement has just put a whole heap of stuff in the chat. If you're not a member of POP, please connect. Please become a member. It's free. Just be part of it. Just be part of it. And there's a whole stack of, they got their Instagram page, Facebook page, the website, and also LinkedIn, and you can reach out to any of them, and they have connections in every single country that they may be able to connect you with, you know, to make this happen. So I think that while I can't go any deeper into what you're asking right now, but what I would suggest is to expand your thinking a little bit more beyond what your initial plan is. I would be looking at people like the POP movement for guidance, you know, and for connections and that sort of stuff. And I would not give up on it. I would keep driving it forward, keep believing in it, keep going for it, and connect. And for everybody else on here, please go and look at those links that have just been put into the chat box, and start connecting with POP and start spending more time in the POP space, because, you know, it's only by working together that we are going to make a better world, and we can't do it alone. And saying that, each of us has a role to play. Each of us can make a difference. And, you know, I think that we've just got to all put our little piece of the puzzle in the puzzle, and we have to believe that there are other good people on this planet who are trying to do the same thing, and other good people who are lifting us up, and other good people that we can connect with. And we're not alone. Sometimes we feel alone, and when we try to save the world, we can't, but we feel alone because we feel the frustration of exactly what, you know, as Abasi John is saying, is that you get so much kickback. And you were saying it too, Mita, you know, there's so much kickback, particularly in communities where we don't want to change. And it suits the communities not to change because, you know, there's a lot, I'm not going to go into it. There's a lot of cultural reasons why it suits not to change. So you're going to get resistance. But the only way things change is to push. And I'm just going to say, you know, with let's just look at Martin Luther King, just for one example, you know, and Rosa Parks, you know, African Americans were not allowed to vote. They had to stand up on a bus when a white person got on the bus, you know, and nothing would have changed. The America treated, you know, like white people were so damn important and black people were nothing. And that is so wrong. And if it wasn't for Rosa Parks standing up on, you know, sitting down on a bus and staying in her seat and saying, no, I am not standing up. I'm tired of standing up. I'm tired of my people being treated so poorly. If it wasn't for her standing her ground and then Martin Luther King joining in with her, black people would not have what they've got today. And we have to fight for equality. We have to fight. We have to stand up. And sometimes it gets hard. Sometimes it hurts. Sometimes we're exhausted. And you know what? It's actually okay to take a breather. Sometimes we say, this is too much. I'm exhausted. I can't do anything. And I'm having a month off, or I'm having a week off. And it's actually okay. And there's no shame in that, to have a week off, to have some downtime, to look after ourselves. Because if we're not at our best, we can't make a better world. So, you know, it's not always perfect. It's not always easy, but it's worth it. It's worth it, because the alternative is we don't have a planet. And we've all got people we love and care about besides ourselves. And we need to make a better world. We need to keep trying. So all I can say is we're nearly finished. We're about to finish. I just applaud every single one of you for being here. and for sitting through this and for making the effort to bring to life some project. And it doesn't matter, there is no measurement of project. Some projects are going to be bigger than others, some are going to be more expensive than others, and not one is more important than the other. Every single project that moves towards a better world is as important as the next, and every single person can bring value to making a difference to this world. So I just want to thank all of you from the bottom of my heart for sitting through this, for just giving 2 hours of your time simply because you believe in a better world. So my heartfelt thanks to every single one of you. Thank you. And I'll shut up now. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. It was really insightful. Like, so I was listening to the entire session, and it made me it clears so many things in my mind that okay, so I can just restart some of my projects again and just get back to work and look for it. If it is not just like in months, I can complete it in years, but I will do it. So yeah, it was really insightful, and my deepest gratitude to you and the entire family who is present here listening to you and being so enthusiastic, being so motivated towards our environment. They're so dedicated, like being so young, everyone is so dedicated towards protecting our planet, and that's what we want. Like, it's pop, let's pop. So thank you so much for joining.
My absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Actually, I would like to say thank you for your presentation. It was really very nice. I'm enjoy it. First of all, I need to say also for everyone, happy World Environmental Day today. It's 5 June. And the second things, I love the way that make it very simple for everybody here to learn how to do their project and everything. And it's my pleasure also to join your Bob. Actually, I will register for this one. I am an environmental system and society teacher for now 17 years. So I enjoy the lesson. It's really amazing. Thank you so much.
It's our honor to have you in our POP family.
Thank you so much. Well, just a wonderful group of people. That's all I can say. Mwah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. Okay, yeah.
Hello, please.
Yes,
please. How do we get our phone number, please? How do we get her phone number, WhatsApp number?
Obasi,
please, how do we get our WhatsApp number?
Just connect with Pop and they'll get you everything. Yeah. So just connect with those.
All
Pop,
right.
Yeah, with the
Okay.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you so much. Looking forward to see you in other sessions.
Looking forward to traveling in person to see each other. That's what I'm looking forward to one day.
One day after Corona.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's two festivals we've missed in Mexico, isn't it now? But never mind. Yeah, it's fantastic. Yeah. All right. Well, that's it, I think. So.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank
you
for
joining, everyone.
Have a great day, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.